So they're two really religious.
So they're very religious movements. So it couldn't have been the fact that they had other children.
No.
Because in those religions or those movements, they believe in a big family. And they believe that children are a blessing from God, and then they abstain from any forms of birth control or sterilization. That would explain all the children. So they thought, what's that saying?
Go forth and
prosper?
Go forth and procreate or something.
And they sure did. So Louise attended high school until 1985, which is the year they married.
So she was 16, so she just was about sophomore, junior?
I'm not good at that.
14 is about,
So she was 16, so she was probably a freshman in high school.
She was about ready to, 2 years, and she would have graduated.
So I'm assuming that was the end of her education, because that's when she got married, and I don't think she probably went on to get her education.
If you have 13 babies, you're not opening books and reading them.
And the other thing is she came from an abusive household, and according to one of her sisters, Louise, the sister, and a female cousin were sexually abused as children by their maternal grandfather.
Ugh.
So, she doesn't have a happy childhood. Or even a stable one.
And her father's a priest.
Minister.
But still, is that why he became one? Because his dad was a prevert?
I have no idea, but listen to this. Another sibling also claimed their mother received cash from the grandfather in return for allowing him to sexually abuse them. So, I can kind of see where her...
Doesn't shock me, disgusts me.
It's disgusting. Because what you should be doing is learning what not to do to your own children.
But she's probably like, well,
Oh, I didn't sexually abuse them, so I'm a good mother.
So, in 1989, you get $20. That probably buys you a pound of bologna. That keeps the kids fed for, what, a week? And then you put... Like, that's what these people are thinking in this kind of city. You know what I mean? It's not like they're... Like, oh, that $20 is going to buy me... Like, I'm going to put that towards an Xbox. No, like...
They're feeding her family.
But for the most horrific reasons.
Yep. So she's feeding her family on the money that her father gives her so he can molest and sexually abuse her children.
Ugh, please tell me there's no, grandbaby.
I don't know.
Daddy.
I didn't see anything like that.
Okay.
But I did see that he got a charge with something like a lewd act, David Turpin, but it didn't go into detail, and the only thing I could see was that he kissed one of his children inappropriately. But that's the only thing that I saw.
And that's a big debate today, when Az loves to give kisses on the lips, but I'm like, I think it's weird.
I never do that.
No, I don't either. I would give her a kiss on the forehead or the cheek, but
kiss me.
Right. But she does this weird, she'll hold your face.
Oh, that's a little kid. So, anywho.
My kid's weird.
Kids are weird.
Especially.
But we love them. So, the other thing was, David and Louise actually, tried to persuade one of her sisters to join them at a snake handling festival.
What?
Which is actually a holy movement.
It is.
And is very, not very known. But it's mostly, around that, Tennessee, Arkansas area.
Have you ever seen the X-Files episode where the guy, can make it rain? He's, one of those snake... Yeah.
So, but... apparently she declined, which if she had tried to persuade me to join that, I'd be like,
bitch, you crazy.
Fuck no, get the fuck out of my face. You're fucking crazy.
But now knowing that she has siblings, what were they doing about stuff? Like, did they have blinders on?
So, they didn't get a lot of interaction, which I'll explain more on when we go through this, but they didn't get a lot of interaction with the children. So they really didn't know what was going on. They had an idea that something just wasn't right, but they didn't have anything firm.
See, as an aunt, and, like, I'm not, like, super involved in my nephew's and niece's life, but I know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, I know if something were serious.
You know if there was something.
And there's, like, a general... Right. So...
Well, I don't know if it was that they didn't take any interest or they didn't take enough interest. I don't know. But I just think that they were withheld from any kind of family for so long that they really didn't get the opportunity to find out what was going on.
Gotcha.
So they did all this holy stuff with the snake handling and all that. But later on, they strayed from the church and were looking into other religions and eventually became obsessed with witchcraft and satanic rituals, partying, gambling, and engaging in swinging.
Look, to each their own on the swinging thing, but don't bring your kids into your witchcraft and devil worshiping. So,
David Turpin, he actually has an education. He actually graduated from Virginia Tech and became a computer engineer. So, he's not stupid.
What the fuck?
Later...
So, they could have afforded those 13 kids.
Oh, yeah. Later, he also claimed to be the principal of Sandcastle Day School, so the children could be homeschooled without any interference from the Department of Education. So that's how they got away with a lot of stuff.
So they made their school this day school.
They made these kids so isolated that nobody had any idea what was going on.
So sad.
I mean, to go to such great lengths to abuse your own children, that's disgusting. Ugh. So for years, the Turpins filed private school affidavits stating he was operating a school and providing his children in a full-time education, which was definitely not the case.
No, because you said most of them didn't even know who the police were.
Yep. False reports prevented the Department of Education from seeing the children and making them go to public school and checking on their well-being. So here they are, they're taking the word for the father that they're getting homeschooled, and they have no reason to think otherwise. And here they are being abused, starved, chained to beds.
And molested by grandpa.
Exactly. No, that was the mother.
Oh.
That was Louise. But who knows? You know, it might not be in the news, but you don't know if they were being abused like that.
Right.
So, there was no outside involvement for these children and adult minors. The adults or the minor children. Because some of them were almost 29 years old.
Yeah, you were saying.
So, I mean, they knew nothing. They didn't know anything about the outside world. They'd been closed up to the outside world for forever. 29 years old, and they knew nothing about police or anything.
Look, I don't want my 29-year-old kid living with me.
No.
She goes to school. She's going to go to college. She tells me that she's going to live with me forever. But we're going to have a chat about that.
But that's what you want for your child. You
I want her to feel safe and, like, know that she can come home. But on the other hand, like, no.
You raise your child to be an individual that can handle life on their own and be successful. That's right. All a parent wants for their child. But not these two. So in 1999, the Turpins left Fort Worth and moved to Rio Vista before moving to Paris, California in 2010. After vacating the home, neighbors stated the Turpins left behind piles of trash and dead animals, beds with ropes tied to them, and not to mention feces throughout.
Oh, so these kids are just shitting all over the place.
Mm-hmm. The authorities were never contacted.
How? Okay.
So the neighbors saw all this, but never told the authorities. Now, put aside the trash, because CPS doesn't give a shit whether you're in a clean house.
You know how many newspapers old people own? Like, that's not an issue. But, like, when they're, like, bringing out shovels full of dead animals and mattresses that are children's size that are covered in ropes and shit.
Yep.
You give somebody a ring, like, hey, just so you know, so-and-so's moving, but...
Because they don't care about the cleanliness. They care about their well-being, but they do not care about their cleanliness. But when you see ropes tied to beds, that doesn't give you, like, an alarm doesn't go off in your head to say, this isn't right, I'm calling the cops.
And look, I mind my business.
Yeah,
but there's been times where I've called the cops in situations that warranted police intervention.
And that's what you have to do. You know what? You have to speak up. See something, say something. So, in 1999, the Turpins left, like I said, Fort Worth and moved to Rio Vista. And then they moved to Paris, California in 2010. And that's when they never called anybody, the neighbors. They're on the TV complaining and saying that they saw this, but they never did anything about it. But anyhow, maybe if they had, maybe the abuse wouldn't continued in Paris, California.
Right, they could have stopped it.
So, apparently, between isolations of abuse, the family was able to portray a happy family through social media. On trips to Disneyland and family birthday celebrations and at vow renewal ceremonies, and not just one that took place in Vegas. 3. 2011, 2013, and 2015. Not to mention they were all wearing matching outfits and convincing everyone they were a normal family.
How do you afford to take that many kids to Vegas?
I'm telling you, he was making bank.
Because you and I want to go to Vegas, and we're like,
and it's just us.
Yeah. And we just need a little bit of booze and some food every day.
Yeah, I don't need a big old fancy place to stay. But anyhow,
we
digress.
Right. We don't want to stay with the hobos, but...
No. Or in that bridge.
Yes. No.
And this is the funny... It's not even funny. This is so sad. The children actually sang an Elvis Presley love song at one of the vow renewals. Yeah. So, criminal charges, after they were actually busted and everything, they only could date back to 2010. So, everything else...
Statute of limitations bullshit.
Well, it was in another county and nobody... In another state and nobody said anything.
Because those fucking assholes...
Yep.
Didn't say anything. Until it was on the news and they're like, oh, I was concerned that whole time.
Yeah. So the Turpins were charged with 12 counts of torture, 12 counts of false imprisonment, 7 counts of abuse to a dependent adult. So they actually had 7 kids that were above 18. Oh my God. And 6 counts of child abuse.
Well, in 2018, yeah, if they started in like 1989, then yeah.
Yep. David received an additional charge of lewd act with a child under 14. They were held in lieu of $9 to $12 million bail. David eventually was charged with perjury as well because of the affidavits he filed with the California Department of Education over the years for claiming his children were being educated in a private school, which we both know they weren't.
Right.
Both pled not guilty to the charges during the brief hearing. In February 22nd, 2019, both changed their guilty plea to guilty.
Because they wanted less time.
They were saying they were not guilty, and then they changed it to guilty.
Because they knew they'd get less time if they pled guilty.
So what their thing was, they did it so their children didn't have to testify. So since when did they give a shit about those kids?
Right.
So they will. What they pled to was guilty to 1 count of torture, 3 counts of willful child cruelty, 4 counts of